Good morning, Redland. It is great to be with you today. We're excited to join you in worship, and I am joined by Ken Braddy. You might remember that Ken Braddy was supposed to come to our church at the end of April, but he wasn't able to because of COVID-19. And so this is us making a little bit of lemonade with these lemons. So, Ken, it's great to have you with us. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your ministry.
You bet, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation, and sorry that I couldn't get there this last time. Maybe as COVID rules relax a little bit, we can make an in-person visit happen again, but this is next best, right? So yeah, I've been in local church ministry for just over 22 years, started in Texas when I was in seminary at Southwestern, and have always had an education role on a staff. So never served as a senior pastor, but I served as the exec or the Sunday school director, minister of education, whatever you like to call that role that oversees Sunday school and discipleship. And I've done that for 22 years, and I'm still doing it. I'm serving a church staff here in the Nashville area in addition to my day job. And so I'm working for them, doing the same thing, trying to help them grow their Sunday school and their discipleship ministries. And so it keeps me grounded. It helps me to remember what it's like to be out there plugging away in the local church, trying to reach and disciple people. So thankful for that opportunity. It keeps me, grounded, I think, and keeps a bit of reality. It's a reality check for me. And I've got my degree from Southwestern. I'm working on another one from Midwestern, my doctorate in education. And so it keeps me, all those things keep me pretty busy. My wife and I, we live here in the Nashville area. We're just south and east of Nashville, about 30 minutes, in a little town called Murfreesboro. And I've got two grown sons. One lives with me. He is about his last year of college right now, and getting ready to, I think, pop the question to his girlfriend. So as he sees light at the end of the school tunnel, I think that's going to happen. And so it's been great experience here in Nashville. Tammy and I have been married about 35 years, and I get to write and blog and do podcasting along the lines of small groups and Sunday school. And so that's my typical day and week, just immersed in my work at Lifeway, where I manage our adult curriculum. And I also serve as the director of Sunday school, which means I write and I speak, and I'm an advocate for Sunday school and groups that are doing Bible study.
Wow. Excellent. Yeah, and as we've gotten to know each other, I firmly believe that God has you where you are for such a time as this. We've been blessed by some of your ministry already because we looked at your Breathing Life into Sunday School book. Recently, we saw the 24 questions to ask before reopening, and I've learned there are another 24 questions. So we've got our work cut out for us. Yeah. But as you get to interact with churches and doing some training and providing resources, which we greatly appreciate, you also get to learn what churches are doing. And this coronavirus epidemic has allowed churches to really begin to get creative. And I'm just curious, what kind of discipleship creativity have you seen among churches during this time?
Great question. There are really two big things that stick out, and I think your church is already doing one of them, maybe doing both, but Zoom has become the go-to tool for churches everywhere. There are a handful of groups using something else, GoToMeeting or something, but Zoom feels like it was the online tool that everybody ran to, right when we got sequestered. And so it kind of became, I wish I'd had stock in it, to be honest. I think I could have retired. But Zoom for Sunday school, and Sunday school for me is a foundational discipleship ministry, and it is so important to people's growth as believers. And so one of the things we've seen are groups getting online. First, it was worship. How do we get worship online? That was the first 2 weeks of COVID separation, right? And then it was like, oh my goodness, we need to do how's the giving? Let's do online giving. That was like week number 2 or 3. And then after that, everybody said, hey, what about groups? And so, when that happened, groups ran online too using Zoom. So we see that most churches right now that are continuing a groups ministry, they're discipling their people through Zoom in groups. But what I'm starting to hear are churches that have taken that to another level, and now they've got now that people are comfortable with Zoom, they're actually seeing like a discipleship leader just take 1 or 2 people through a book, or they have an online check-in and accountability thing. So, and still using Zoom. So we see the big group meeting, the Sunday school type group meeting, but now we're starting to see, triads and quads of people coming together to do smaller discipleship. And so I think it's a very healthy thing.
Yeah, that's a great option. And some of you might be listening and you say, yeah, I was doing that, but I miss it, or I was doing it by phone, but Zoom has free accounts. You can do 40 minutes at a pop, which is a great chance to reconnect with a friend, a fellow Christian, just helping you grow together. So that's a neat option.
And we're so early in this, to be honest. We're 6 or 8 weeks in, to most of our groups being online and meeting. Who knows, what other creative things. So if you ask me this question again in a month, I may have a slightly different answer, because I think I'm going to continue to hear churches finding new ways to do discipleship now that we're, been pushed online.
Yeah. Our God is a creative God. And I believe, just like we were talking about making lemons out of lemonade, or wait, no, let's reverse that. Just like we were talking about making lemonade out of lemons, that's what God specializes in. And there are so many aspects of this that are absolutely awful. But I believe that God is guiding his church during this time. And so that kind of thing amazes me. And with that in mind, are there any trends that you see that are emerging from churches regarding discipleship?
Yes. Well, we've already mentioned one, the groups getting online, and then the smaller triads and quads. So we see those two things happening. I think another trend that we're watching, and I think this is a very healthy trend in Sunday school, to be very honest, Kevin, is that we see group leaders that are acting more like shepherd leaders than ever before. Because I think the mission of Sunday school, unfortunately, has been seen as a Sunday morning ministry. We do it somewhere between 9 and noon. It's in conjunction with the worship service. We kind of do it on Sunday morning. And so some teachers, I think, struggle to act like the shepherds that they should be during the week, because most of our groups, 50% of our folks are there any Sunday, and there's another 50% that weren't there. And as a group leader myself, it's hard, working a full-time job, having a wife and a family, to always remember, there were 15 people in my group, but there were 15 people that weren't there that need me to shepherd them and follow up and find out, why weren't they there? Are they okay? Those kind of things. And so now that we've been in COVID, one of the things that we see is that we've got a little more time. People are around the house more. And so there've been more phone calls, text messages, things like this. My own group has experienced that. And so I think that that's one of those good trends that we're seeing. And I hope it remains when we get back to the campus, is that we become more intentional about shepherding our group and not just teaching our group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. And I love that distinction because the shepherding is almost like bringing the lesson all the way in to people, where teaching could be lesson delivery. Shepherding is really making sure that each sheep gets it.
It's the very personal side of the role of teaching a group. There's two other things I think that we see also happening, and they're both extremely good. One is self-discipleship. We see folks, at least from the lifeway.com side of things, people that are ordering like onesies. They're ordering one Beth Moore book, or one Priscilla Shire book, or one Tony Evans study, and we know that's an individual probably that's going to go through a book study and self-disciple, which I think is a good thing, right? But the other thing that's happening, the one that I'm really, really excited about, and I hope this one stays around, is that we see moms and dads discipling their kids more than ever in the home, because the kids are home, they're out of school, they can't go back, and so churches have been providing tools for their families to do family worship, tools for parents to have those conversations with their kids about spiritual things. Even our church, we're sending out the kids' lessons and some discussion sheets for the parents. And so I hope that we're seeing a generation of parents that maybe they thought, hey, I didn't grow up in this, and I've never seen this done. My parents didn't do this, but now they're learning, what, I can do this, and God wants me to be a disciple maker in my own home. I think that's great, so that the church can really become more of a partner than a primary place for discipleship. So, we want to serve and help parents, but we don't want to take the place of parents.
Right. Yeah. And church, spoiler alert, this is not live for us. We're filming it on a Wednesday. And right before you and I met, Ken, I was doing that with my kids. Our youth ministry is going through the book of Acts. We've got daily readings set up. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was reading through with my kids this chapter in Acts, and I'll actually confess to you that I said, hurry up, we got to finish our reading because I need to go talk to Ken Braddy. So
Yeah.
other times it's a little more relaxed than that, and we're getting great discussion. That's the neat thing.
Yeah, that's great. I think a whole generation of parents are gaining some confidence that this is something that they can do, and they don't have to leave it to the Sunday school teachers at the church. They're perfectly capable as parents to guide their own kids. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, they sure are. It's bringing families together. So what is one takeaway that you hope the average churchgoer embraces from this time of quarantine?
Oh boy, there are a couple of things. I think one is that they realize that the church is not the building, that the church is us, and that's very scriptural, right? So, we're a household of faith. Paul talks about us being fit together, much like a body. And so I think that our people are starting to maybe rediscover that the church is, it's us, it's people. I think that's one of those big takeaways that I hope that our people, come out on the other side of this quarantine. And then the other one is, and this is maybe a personal lesson that I've learned, and it's kind of funny, but it's not. But just literally weeks before COVID hit, and just weeks before we were all sent home from work and church couldn't meet, my wife and I were starting to have discussions about retirement in about 10, 12 years and where we thought we were going to be. And then COVID hit. And quite honestly, I don't even want to go look at my retirement account right now. I don't even want to know. I'm thinking, hey, in 10, 12 years, hopefully it's going to bounce back, right? And I've realized that that we're in control of very little, right? And so how dependent we are on God to hold everything together. The scripture tells us, he holds the world together, right? Yeah. And he's in all things. But I think I have learned, and I think our people are learning, that income, businesses, life itself, is very fleeting. And so we should trust and depend on God even more than ever going forward. I think maybe our self-reliance and self-dependence, hopefully maybe our pride will give way to humility, and we will find that we are more dependent upon our Heavenly Father than ever before. I mean, I'm learning that lesson myself. It's been a good one.
Yeah, the reordering of priorities to maybe realize there are some things that I was holding up here and thought they were super important that God is now reminding me, you know what, maybe that's further down on the list. Absolutely. And then this sense of I'm self-made, I can handle this. And we pay lip service to dependence on God. But during this time, some of us are realizing, no, we really are dependent on God for everything.
Absolutely.
So that's a great takeaway. So, by the way, you recently started a podcast, the Sunday School Man, right?
Sunday School Guy. Yeah, the Sunday School Guy podcast. Yeah. Had been wanting to do that for a while. And I realized right as COVID hit and we were sent home from Lifeway, you know what? I don't really have set work hours. I mean, I could work, throughout the day, take a break, work into the evening, work into the night. And so just on a lark one day, Kevin, I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. It was one of my goals coming into the year, but it was March and I hadn't done it yet. And I thought, you know what? Good as time as any, right? And so I learned, I went online, read, how to start a podcast, did a little research, and then just went, hey, let's just do it. And so I launched a podcast about, 4 or 5 weeks ago, something like that. There's about 12 or 13 episodes on. I put about 5 or 6 up there real quick. And now I'm in a rhythm of about once a week. I'm putting a podcast out there, but it's going well. The listenership, I was going to say viewership, but it's listenership, is growing. I, continue to get messages from Podbean. They're hosting it. And I've also got it on iTunes. And so as people find it, it lets me know. And so, usually once or twice a day, I'll get an email that says, hey, you've got a new follower on, Sunday School Guy podcast. So it's growing and, it lets me use my radio voice. I've been told I got a radio voice. And so off we go. And so it's going to start just like my Sunday school blog did, so it'll start small and people will find it and it'll just kind of grow organically. And, there's no pressure. I don't make any money for doing it. I just do it because I enjoy doing it and want to reach another audience that might be wanting to listen to something as they jog or as they drive, those kind of things. And I think that maybe is an outlet for that.
Well, it's a great resource for teachers, and maybe you'll get a few more followers after this today. The Sunday School Guy podcast.
Sunday School Guy.
Yeah, and there are a couple of ones that I found really interesting. I think our teachers and care leaders and outreach leaders could benefit from that. By the way, it's nice to be told you have a voice made for radio rather than a face made for radio. So
I've been told both.
So, all right. So the church is going to return to normal eventually, and we don't know exactly when that will be. And there may be some aspects of it that are a new normal for us. And so what do you think that new normal is going to look like for churches?
Oh boy. So here's where the prophet's words could fall to the ground. And I know the penalty, I know the Old Testament penalty for that. So I'll take a decent stab. Okay. I think that one of the things that is going to happen for sure, I think this is a very safe guess, is that the expectations of our church members regarding cleaning and sanitizing and being safe is going to be escalated like you can't believe. And I've said in a different venue, Kevin, our competition is not our competition anymore. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, I know my church here in the Shelbyville, Tennessee area might say, well, First Baptist, is our competition, or, the new mission start, with the, cool skinny jean worship or pastor guy, that is not our competition. Here's our competition: Walmart and Home Depot, and this is going to sound funny, Taco Bell and other places, because as we're having interactions with these places, like we went to the grocery store the other day, to our neighborhood Walmart, and the lady, the employee, had on a mask, handed us our cart. She wiped it down in front of us, and my wife made the comment, "Wow, that was really nice. We're getting a clean buggy." And then we went to Taco Bell one night, just did the drive-through thing, and the lady held the card reader out the window. And I stuck in my credit card, pulled it out. Our hands never touched. She handed us our bag of food. Off we went. And we said, wow, that was a nice, clean transaction. Her hands weren't over everything. And so I say all that to say our competition now, whether it's fair or not, Kevin, it's anybody that raises our people's expectations about what clean and sanitary is going to be. So if we're seeing Walmart and Taco Bell and other places go to these lengths to protect people, don't think that our folks aren't going to come back to church and expect the church to do at least, something like this. So all that to say, I think that one of the new normals is whatever we have been, like on a scale of 1 to 10 in our cleaning of our churches, it just went to 10 now. We've got to function at a very high level because they're seeing it in the secular community, and we ought to do at least as good as, those places. And so I think that's going to be one thing that will be part of the new normal. I think another part of it is going to be we're not going to come back with full worship services and full groups. I think some folks will be slower to come back, and it won't be like we'll open the doors and if we were running 200 will come back. It may be 75 or 100 come back, and a lot of folks will stay online and worship with us and do Bible study, and may even prefer to do that. So I think that is going to be something that'll be part of the new normal. We may be surprised, how slowly people want to come back, even though there is that desire to, come back. And I think just having to get used to things like face masks. If your church, we're going to ask our people to wear face masks when we come back on May 31st. We're going to have one way in, one way out. We'll dismiss by rows. We're going to give the offering differently. We're going to have plates laid out that people will, put their offering in. We won't pass plates. So some of this, it's going to feel like traditions have died, and it's going to be hard, I think, for some of our folks to make that shift from what used to be to what the new normal is. So who knows, but it's definitely going to be different coming back.
Yeah, one thing that I love about that is we tend to get into traditions, and I actually love tradition, but I also don't like for people to get so entrenched into tradition that they forget the biblical aspect of it. And we can look at how we can be biblically faithful even as we forge a couple of new traditions along the way. I think that helps mature the church. So that's an exciting thing.
It is. No, it does.
Yeah. By the way, if you are a grace group teacher or care leader or outreach leader, this is not the only time you get to see Ken Braddy's wonderful face this week, because on Tuesday, he's going to help lead our grace group training session. We are looking forward to that. And so we hope that if you're one of those people, you'll make sure that you are present for it. And if you say, you know what, I've been considering maybe stepping up in my grace group, send me an email, because I'll get you the link. You can come on and learn a little bit from Ken. It's going to be a great time of training. And Ken, you mentioned that you're working with Lifeway and overseeing a whole lot about curriculum. Do you have any pro tips, any nuggets of wisdom regarding the curriculum?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a sweet spot, I think, for me and for what our company does. It's really the thing that we were founded to do in 1891. It was founded to create easy to use, trustworthy Bible study materials. And so that mission, has not changed. But over time, obviously, culture changes, the church changes, so we adapt and try to keep up. And one of the things that we've done is we have created a new online group plan, because we realized literally like week number 1 of COVID-19 separation that the leader plans that your group leaders have are really crafted for an in-class 45-minute Bible study experience. And when we go online and all of a sudden in a Zoom meeting, you've got 40 minutes total, now what, and we began to realize that the environment online is so different than it is in the classroom, that as we began teaching, because almost every editor that I've got teaches a Bible study group using Lifeway material. So we edit it, we help create it, but we also use it. And we realized in week number 1, these group plans, this is going to take some finagling online for this to work. So that very first week, we created what we're calling, for lack of a better term, an online group plan. So we'll take Explore the Bible or Bible Studies for Life or a Gospel Project, and we now have free downloadable online plans that are crafted for about a 20-minute Bible study experience online, with the other 20 minutes being devoted to prayer and to fellowship, because people, they really want to visit, when they get online in their Zoom group. And so that's one thing that we have done. I'd recommend taking a look at those online group plans if you're a teacher, because I think it could really help. And it's counterintuitive, Kevin, to say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean we're only going to teach 20 minutes? But honestly, with people's attention spans, we have had, we've been in meetings where kids have walked in or walked up to the computer monitor, and we've seen, dogs
come. It hasn't happened here for me.
Yeah, it happens all the time. We had squealing pigs in one Bible study that the parents had bought for their daughters, and the daughters brought them in, and it was like meeting over, because everybody's like, oh, bring the little piggies and let's see the sweet little piggies. And it's like, oh man, Bible study just went out the window because of piglets. But it's a different environment. So these online group plans will take what's in the current leader guides and we'll trim it down to about a 20-minute experience. And it, I think, is very helpful to group leaders. So that's one thing. Then is your church using the daily discipleship guide or the personal study guides? What are you using there, Kevin?
So the ones that do the quarterly curriculums, most of them are using the personal study guides.
Yeah.
1 or 2 are using the daily discipleship guides. My group is one of those. And
yeah,
I enjoy it a lot.
We love them. They're the newest thing that we have created, and they have, basically, it's designed for the group to come together and do Bible study, obviously. But then there are 5 daily, I'm going to call them studies/devotionals. They're more than a devotional, but it's less than a full-blown Bible study, but it does build on for 5 days what the group just did in their Bible study. So the Bible study group kind of lays that foundation, and then the individual gets to do their own study for 5 days. That's a tremendously great feature, in trying to make disciples and keeping people in God's Word every day of the week. But then the other thing that I like about the daily discipleship guide, I know your group's probably discovering this, there's actually a section in it for same-sex people. So 2 or 3 guys, 2 or 3 girls to get together. And there's even more discussion questions that build off of those 5 daily devotionals and then their group experience. And so it gives kind of that, you might call it a D group, a discipleship group, that smaller same-sex group, an opportunity to come together. And what I've discovered is it's easier to get groups to do that in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 if they're from the same Sunday school class, because other, you could try to do it church wide, but you're putting random people together. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. The personalities blend and mesh. Maybe they don't. But in a Sunday school class, if it was you and me and a couple other guys, we go, hey, why don't we meet on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock online, or, Thursdays at 8 p.m. And because I know you're in my group, probably a much better chance of me saying yes to that and doing some more accountability type things through that daily discipleship guide. So love that. There's also, teachers don't need to forget about the blogs that we have, because we go to a lot of trouble to maintain those blogs. And every curriculum line has one. And on those blogs, you'll find there's additional discussion questions for the group time. There are sometimes video clips. There's maybe something to download and print, or download and send to the group. There are current event tie-ins to the lessons. And so lots of extra support that are available through our Sunday school blogs that we run through Lifeway. And so those are tremendous sources of information, and also just lots of extra teaching items that a group leader could use throughout the week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially for you all, you're putting a material out that's several months in advance of when it actually gets into our hands and we're using it.
Right.
But to have a blog that has some timely elements that actually make sense according to what's going on today.
Right.
That's a big benefit. And so, well, Ken, I really want to thank you for joining us today. I'm looking forward to the time that we get to spend together Tuesday night. I think that's going to be a great, enriching time. God's doing a work here at Redland. He really is. You've been a part of that because you've coached me a little bit, and you've helped me as I work with a team so that we've avoided pitfalls in our quest. But I can tell you, discipleship is growing here at Redland.
That's awesome.
We had a new group start last week, Go Garens, and we also had a group start a few weeks before that. And so there's real growth here. You told me that's happening in all the churches that you're talking about. So God's doing a work here, and we're thankful we get to be a part of that too. But thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Appreciate the invitation, Kevin. And I do look forward to next Tuesday. That'll be a great time to get together and see a screen full of faces and get to do some training. So look forward to that. So just under a week or so, I'll see you then. Yeah.
That's right. That's for us today on Wednesday. But as you're watching this on Sunday, that's Tuesday, May 19th. We'll see you, if you're watching this on Sunday, we'll see you Grace Group leaders, teachers in 2 days. All right. Thanks a lot.
Good.